From your unique vantage point at Webit, what's your perspective on the direction that technology is heading?
Well, first for the audience, Webit is, if not the biggest, one of the biggest community of digerati and policymakers, which is built around creating together the desirable future. And it's 800,000 people that are connected and many thousands that work in communities, in verticals, on building up that better future, paving it and exploring how this could happen now. From that perspective, technology is heading where it's always been, innovating, creating value for the humankind. That's all about it, isn't it? Why do we do all the innovation? Why do we spend most of our time in creating things? Well, there must be two reasons that really validate that all efforts. One is improving the state of well-being, which is Webit Foundation, which I'm executive chairman of mission. And second is happiness. So if we don't lose those two lighthouses out there, and if we follow the beam of light, then we are on the right way. Currently, of course, we follow the main trends, and they are, we have AI, we have IoT, Internet of Things and artificial intelligence. We have the next generation of clouds, / it could be quantum, and it is. We've heard already a company claiming supremacy in that area. And of course, we have anything which is around virtual reality and augmented reality, AR, VR. So these four, empowered by blockchain, which you can say is the fifth one, hopefully, are creating what we go through now, as some call it revolution. Thanks God, it's not the revolution from 1917 in Russia. It is industrial revolution, which is shaping the new realities. Now, from that lenses, now we have another major player and catalyzer, and this is the 5G. So all these, through 5G, how they change the way we live, society, the future of work, healthcare, defense and cybersecurity, and it's changing in a dramatically fast pace. It's a speed that many, I would say majority of the policymakers lack understanding, and they are not analog policymakers anymore. They are digital. They do understand it, but it's so fast. They need different background, different education to hold it. So the biggest challenge is now, if I phrase your question, hopefully you agree with me, the biggest challenges now are two. These are challenges, one of them is an opportunity. Challenge number one, the biggest one, is called privacy. That's why Webit stands for the new act of freedom, where we shall make sure that our kids, our children, are not going to be prisoners of their own personal data. And this is wrong on many levels, because as long as we are not with our individual privacy, we become just a system of cloud computers ourselves. And this is further wrong because happiness is very individual. And the beauty about the humankind is diversity. So the more our privacy is there, the more diverse we are, the more we would be living in peace and harmony. Because if all of us want one thing only, that's how the war starts. And we are a society which hopefully, and if you look at history, we are trying to make the next step, to put wars very much in the past. If you look at Europe, for the past many centuries, there was not even a single month without wars, but not after the World War II, where this beautiful piece of project of peace has happened. and we see the results. The second, and this is the second not only threat but also opportunity, and I'm looking at the macro picture, is gene editing. Until now we talk about GMO, the gene modification of the food, but basically the gene editing is what could help us get rid of, if not all, I would say all, but majority of all illness and diseases that we see. It could help us become better ourselves. Well, that's the game of gods already, but we play that game. We fly faster than Hermes. I'm not talking about the company that produces bags and belts. I'm talking about the god Hermes. We fly faster than him. And we are in a position of sending stronger and worse lightnings and thunders than the gods use. So if you look from that perspective, we are more gods than the gods were and are in the ancient methodology. So to be a god is not an easy job, it turns. It's quite a bit of responsibility. And building up further AI, which is still not artificial, which is still the intelligence of us, the humans, that we put there, including our values. That's why if the AI is programmed by a good person, it's a good AI. If the AI is programmed by another person, it might not be a good AI. So that's why ethics, values are so important. That's why the Webit global community is built not that much on how amazing is that innovator, even though it's full of those, but how big is the heart of that community. So I think these two challenges that I've outlined, this is where the technology is heading on a macro level, and this is where we have to be very careful, especially with the privacy. We really need, and we shall hopefully have the new Act of Freedom, which will end this type of, I would easily call it slavery, that we live in now, sharing all our private data.
You know, as you're talking about, in general, the optimistic scenario for all that technology can actually do and highlighting some of the challenges, you know, what are the things that the industry needs to be doing or thinking about to ensure that we don't end up actually in the more dystopian version of the future? It sounds like the Act of Freedom is one of those things. Are there other things that the industry should be thinking about?
Well, let me say I'm a pronoic. I don't know if you know what it is. Pronoic is the opposite state of mind of paranoid. I'm a believer of a global conspiracy for the good of the humankind and each individual. So I'm definitely optimist. And the major challenges that we see and changes that we were talking will basically impact a number of areas. That includes healthcare, which needs complete disruption. It takes so much money, it is so ineffective that it really needs to be disrupted. Education, when we talk about mobility, of course computing is changing by, so all these are there. So the question is, if we all, the community of digerati and policymakers, understand that we all should put the values at the bottom of everything and build about them. It's not about anything else. It's not about the next great technology. It's just a tool. We need to base our next steps on the Asian landmarks, what is really important for us, the humans, and of course the planet. That's another very important thing to talk about climate tech. It's the technology that brought us here now, with all the challenges that we see, and we are now during the UN week and the climate, so we all know what happened there. That little girl who spoke out loudly, insulting the adults, most probably with a lot of reason in there, but let's say it is the technology that could save us, because that's what brought us there, and we have to work on that. So we have a lot of work to do. And that's where we see such gatherings here, Concordia, at Webit, where we really, really go deep into the problems and we work on them in order to make sure that our kids, their kids, will have the life that, the desirable future that we build for them.
We're in the US. There's often it's tempting to look at it through a sort of a US view of technology. But how is technology seen, because you have a global perspective, is it seen the same way around the world, and what should we be thinking about in terms of how different people may actually view both technology and its opportunity and the future?
That's a great question, because we are in a position to answer that question through our experience and through our knowledge base. You know that Webit, besides the community work we do, we also have these global events where we bring 120 countries, 15, 20,000 people in one place. And we have all these cultures, all these different points of views, all this beautiful diversity gathered together. So I can give you different examples of adoption of technologies or further regulation based on adoption of technologies that prove that they are not acceptable by particular societies. But in order to say it in different way, talent is equally distributed, opportunities become more, it's still not equally distributed, but there is this trend of equal distribution. And I would refer here to the change of power, and we used to have this unipolar, and now we have the shift of power to multipolar model, for good or bad, which allows also local superpowers technological to emerge, which distributes the technology and which distributes opportunities. So from that point of view, I guess furthermore, and I see it as an opportunity, there shall be so-called personalized technology solutions where hopefully societies will continue to be different, will continue to be diverse. We still shall be different with different beliefs if you go, because that's what makes the humankind so beautiful. And so technologies will fit, will put a dress on this, and that will keep us what we are. Because again, it's very important for me, for our communities, to preserve this diversity of the humankind. Technologies are like, we have seen what globalization means. Yeah, we have to globalize on values that are crucial. How important is the human life? How important is protecting our planet? How important are these values? We should build on that, and this is very stable ground. But then everything else, we go. So when you see what happened to Libra, I don't know if you're allowed to use trademarks, but you saw what was Europe's reaction to Facebook's new product. That's symbolic. If it happened a couple of years ago in technology, it wouldn't be happening at all. No one wouldn't be there. So it shows that policymakers are alerted. And let's not forget, policymakers' work is to represent the societal interest of the people who voted for them. Well, that's the click. You don't use tool that you know it doesn't work. That's why you don't call your congressman all the time. But anyway, we need to emerge that. These are all these 360 of the society, the civil society, of course the corporates, the academia, and the rest of the people who make that 4 or 5 even side point of view. So from European perspective, technology is hope, because Europe lost 1/3 of its role in the global GDP production for the past 12 years. Actually, since Webit started and we grow, Europe has, 12 years ago, Europe was responsible for 32% from the global GDP production. Now it's less than 20, 19.5. So it's hope. For Africa, it's hope. For America, for China, these are tools for expanding the impact. So how about that perception of technology? Because everything else is there. Money, there is a lot of money in US, but in US, we just talk about it, just few states. 3 states got like over 80%, 85% of all investments. So yeah, there are some hubs of excellence where we should work to further distribute. So I see technology more like building more equilibrium and building a platform where we all can build upon. And that's where our community also goes. At the end, as I told you, it's all about why is the technology, and it's for human. And that's what, if we are all aligned around that, I see a beautiful future where we shall still be playing gods. As Harari says, we are turning into homo deus, into humans, god humans, but we shall playing that game with that common understanding that we do it for humankind's good and for the planet's, our home good. That's very important.
Plamen, thanks very much indeed.